Welcome to another edition of Access Higher Ed, the show that seeks to keep you informed about what's happening in the world of higher education here in the Berkshires and beyond. I'm your host, Christina Barrett, Director of Marketing and Student Recruitment at Berkshire Community College. And I'm so excited to have another edition of Access Higher Ed happening in the demo kitchen at Pittsfield Community Television. I'm joined by members of our Culinary program, the students that we have at Berkshire Community College, as well as their fearless leader, Audrey Sussman, who is going to take us through the wonderful world of puff pastry making with us today. So thank you all for joining us. It's great to have you here.
Thank you.
Audrey.
Thanks for inviting us. I understand that we are inaugurating the kitchen.
Well, we're inaugurating it for Access Higher Ed for sure.
Okay,
so
that counts.
We're thrilled.
Well, we're going to make puff pastry today, and it's one of my favorite pastry dessert things because it's so versatile. And Kelly is going to start by cutting up some butter and tossing it into 3 cups of flour. We start with 1 pound of unsalted butter. We always use unsalted butter for baking and for cooking, and that way you know how much butter you're putting, how much salt rather you're putting in. You can add your own salt to it, but if it's already in the butter, then you really don't know what the flavor might be. So she's tossing it up into the flour, coating each piece of butter with that. She is going to add about a teaspoon of kosher salt, and I'll tell you in a minute why we use kosher salt. So she's going to toss that in the flour. It's all coated. And Andrew here is breaking up the butter into what we call pea-sized pieces. And that takes a little bit of time to work it with your fingers. I always tell people to use their fingertips. Do you know why?
Tell us.
Because your fingertips are colder than the rest of your hand. And you want to keep the butter cold.
So that's butter that came right out of their refrigerator?
It did.
Okay.
It did. You want to keep everything as cold as you possibly can, otherwise it's going to get soft and mushy. And the butter is supposed to remain in these pea-sized pieces. Andrew is then going to add a cup of ice cold water to this, and he will be mixing that up. You can use a spoon, a rubber spatula. He's going to use his hands because I always feel that when you get your hands into something, you can really feel what it's like, and you can know what your texture is and what you're attempting, what your final product should feel like and look like.
And he's got gloves on, so his hands aren't really going to get that messy.
No. Well, in food service, in the professional food kitchen, we use gloves virtually all the time. There are some exceptions, and this could be the exception. We say that if the food is going from your hands to somebody's mouth, you must wear food service gloves. Right. If the food is going to be cooked, you do not have to. And you'll see that with chefs. But we practice always using gloves. So, okay.
Doing a great job, Andrew.
Thank you.
He's going to work that until what we call a shaggy mass. And
this is like my new favorite term today.
Is it?
Yeah, well, before we started the show, Melissa and I were talking about how she loves it too.
I called it mashy.
Right.
A shaggy mass. The dough is really messy. You're never going to believe that it's going to come together and look neat and nice, but it will. And Melissa's going to show us how that process gets started. She's going to flour the work surface.
So it doesn't stick,
so
right? That's the purpose?
Stick, right. You want to use just enough flour so that it doesn't stick, but you don't want to add more flour to the recipe. It has enough flour. We're using flour just so that it doesn't stick. And oftentimes flouring the rolling pin a drop is helpful in that process.
Okay. You can still sort of see the little pieces of butter. And that's why Andrew was using pea-sized amounts.
Right.
I see.
So in class, I do these drawings up on our whiteboards, and I always preface it by telling the students I'm the worst artist in the world. But I try and draw them a little example, right, of the butter left in pea-sized pieces throughout the flour. Do you think you could hold up break this open and see if you can hold up and show our viewers what the pea size or what the bits of butter look like.
Like that?
Well, no.
No?
It almost looks like a little bit of garlic.
Well, it's the size and it's the fact that the butter is left in cubes here or in small pieces. And what happens is when this gets baked, the butter melts, and it melts into our flour-water mixture. Now, we remember from, I guess, maybe grade school chemistry that when water heats up, it creates steam. Steam expands. So we have this little pocket now where the butter was. The butter has melted into the flour-water mixture. The steam from the water expands, and you have puff. So there's your puff pastry. So we want these little bits of butter left there, and they sort of fry. They give the flour water mixture a crisp texture.
So if he didn't do these pea-size amounts, you'd essentially not have the volume, I guess, right, when it baked?
Exactly.
I see.
You're a great student.
It can be taught, right? It's Berkshire Community College, folks.
Berkshire Community College culinary program.
That's right.
So Melissa has been working on this to roll it out into the first, what we call the first roll and fold. This dough requires 3, what we call 4 folds, and in a minute, she's going to continue on for a bit there. And then we're going to look, Bethany has completed 2 rolls and folds, and she's going to be doing the 3rd roll and fold. Say that all fast.
What is the purpose of the 3 roll and folds?
We want to create layers. We want to create layers of puff pastry.
Okay.
If you do this recipe, if you make half the dough plain like this and you did an experiment and added, say, cocoa powder to the other half of the dough and layered them, you would see clearly the layers of dough for the rolls and folds. And in the finished product, which I'll talk to you in a minute about what the potential finished products are, all these layers are going to puff up and you would see brown, white, brown, white, brown, white. And you could see all your layers of puff pastry. Okay, so Bethany, would you show us the 4th roll, the 3rd rather, roll and fold?
Mm-hmm. Thank you.
Mm-hmm. Let's. So this dough, we call this puff pastry or blitz puff pastry because it's faster than, there are a couple of other ways to make this dough. The outcome is very similar. That's a laminated dough. The outcome is similar and the taste is very similar. When you truly laminate the dough, making a truly butter layer and a truly flour layer and then roll and fold, you will have more even layers of butter, flour, and slightly more even puffing. But the amount of time and effort that goes into that method is really not necessary. So will you show everybody how you did? This is called a 4-fold, and would you just demonstrate? We're lifting a short end to the center.
And then the other
and then
side, and then you take it from the middle and then just fold it over.
Right. So just for the purpose for our audience, would you unfold that one more time and show them what a 3-fold is?
Yes.
Some recipes might say do a 3-fold. And all you're doing is creating one less layer. But for certain things, that's what's called for. So open it up, please.
Okay.
And a 3-fold is like a letter. Bring the bottom up 1/3 of the way. Yeah, like a letter. A little bit more. There you go. And bring the top down. So now you have...
Like that?
Exactly.
Okay.
You have 3 layers
folds.
as opposed to 4. Okay.
Now, what part of the culinary program itself do you actually learn to make puff pastry? Which class is this part of?
This is part of the baking class, and we did this in the fall. I always do it right before Thanksgiving because I think this dough is so versatile. It can be used for so many different things. We can use it for all kinds of sweet desserts, and it can be filled with, you can make it into turnovers, you can make it into puff pastry, Napoleons. You can make it into something called a palmier, which is a cookie, by rolling it out thin, spreading some cinnamon sugar on it, rolling it back up, chilling it, and then you've got like slice and bake cookies, and all you have to do is slice them, bake them.
Next time we'll do that.
Okay.
Okay.
And it's a great dough to keep on hand because it freezes perfectly. So, so going back to some of the things you can do with it, we can make sweets, like I just said. You can make little cups out of it, which we're going to do today, and fill those cups with things like ice cream, puddings, fruit salads, just let your mind go. Chocolate mousse. Nobody ever.
So it could be a dessert or an appetizer.
As an appetizer or as a entree course, today we're going to be filling it with shrimp salad and serving it for lunch. So,
that's great.
You can make cheese straws out of this. They're great to serve with drinks. Just as Bethany has done, rolled it out. You'd put an egg wash down, then sprinkle some Parmesan cheese. The egg wash works as a glue when in baking. And maybe a drop of cayenne pepper, maybe a touch of paprika, and cut it into strips, twist those strips, and bake them.
Great.
Pretty easy. Great. Once you've got the dough done, it's a snap.
And your mind, you sort of can be as creative as you'd like. So sky's the limit, really, on this. Wanted to take a minute to acknowledge the 4 students we have with us today because they took the time out of their day and have been so great in showing us what they have learned in their classes, and wanted to just ask if they would mind introducing themselves and maybe how they came to BCC and what they plan to do after they graduate. So Kelly, if that's okay, we'll start with you.
My name's Kelly, and this is my 2nd semester in the Culinary program. Before I was in early childhood, and then I switched because I wasn't doing so good, so I decided to switch into something else. And I decided I want to open a bakery somewhere. I'm not sure, around here. Or
that's great.
Yeah.
Andrew?
Okay, I'm Andrew. I took culinary in high school, and then it took me a little while to want to get back into the kitchen, and I wanted to learn like just a bunch of new stuff. So, and then like after this, maybe I'll work for her.
That would be great. Melissa?
My name's Melissa Pyetranker, and I was an optician before this.
Really?
Yeah, and I worked in Connecticut, and I just moved back home recently because my family lives here, and I always had a passion for cooking. So it never went away, so obviously if it's something I love to do, why not have a career to do it for the rest of my life? So after this, I think maybe a catering business.
That's great.
Yeah, thanks.
Great. Thanks for being here.
Thank you.
Bethany?
My name is Bethany. I actually graduated from BCC with my liberal arts degree and took some time off, started a family, and decided that it would be a good idea to get into something that I really love to do. And I think I'll probably end up working for Kelly too, because I want to work in a bakery. So
that's great.
We'll all still be together.
Yeah, that's great. Well, as I said with our other show, that if you need someone to test your baked goods, I'll volunteer.
We'll
so
give you a call.
Thank you. Thank you. Thanks for joining us, and Audrey, thank you.
Thank you.
Audrey, what were you doing before you were with Berkshire Community College?
I worked in the men's apparel industry before I came here. And I came up to the Berkshires after the company closed. And I had a small business, a small bakery business. I was selling at local farmers markets. And this woman came up to me and introduced herself as the chair of the Culinary and Hospitality Department at BCC. She wanted to know what I was going to do in the fall. And I thought, oh my gosh, Anyway, Nancy Rudderman wanted to start a baking class down in South County, and she hired me. And it's history. So I love it. It's a challenge. It's exciting. I learn more about my students every single day, like just now. I didn't know that Bethany graduated already. it's great. It's great. I never want to go back to selling men's shirts.
No. I
Can
don't
you
think we want
imagine?
you to.
No, there's,
No.
you know.
Great. Well, thank you.
Thank you.
So we've rolled out our dough and are doing, we did a 4-fold, if I got that right.
Yes.
Okay.
So Bethany is now going to cut this into what we call vol event. And a vol event is a little cup paste that's a cup-like shape that's made from the pastry. And as I said before, it can be used to be filled with savory fillings, like shrimp salad, chicken salad, tuna, maybe even a bit of salad greens, a little chop salad, or it can be served for desserts. Now, this pastry has just endless uses. You can use this for tarts. You can use this for quiche. And while we're talking about that, I want to just mention that the same ingredients that are used in pie crust are used here. But there is a difference. The pie crust we leave in small bits of pieces, and we roll it out, and we fill the pie crust. We don't do these rolls and folds, so that we're not looking for layers when we make a pie crust. We're looking for flakiness. That's the goal of a pie crust. But it's not layers. So while it's the same ingredients and just about the same proportions, this is the differences in the rolls and folds. We use a couple of tools here. There's a bench scraper on the table in front of Bethany. And a bench scraper I think is really one of the handiest tools. It obviously picks up dough off of a counter. It also can be used to scrape up a counter and clean it all up. You can use it. Some of them are sharp enough that you could even cut some vegetables with it. And if you keep it handy, if you've cut your vegetables, say, on a cutting board, scoop them up instead of using your knife and dulling the blade of the knife. Use that bench scraper to put it into your bowl to gather them up.
Okay.
What Bethany is doing now is making an egg wash. And egg washes are made many different ways. You can use a whole egg, you can use an egg yolk, you can use an egg white, you can add some water, you can add some milk. It really doesn't matter. But the purpose of the egg wash is that it works as a glue in baked goods, and it gives a nice shine to the finished product. So what she's going to do is put the egg wash across the bottom piece of the puff pastry, of the dough, and then she's going to set a ring. We cut out a ring or an edge to the same size as the bottom piece. She's setting that on top. And then we save the center of those rings for decoration on our plates. Okay.
And you don't have to egg wash the top because nothing is going on top of it.
Correct.
Just leave it.
You actually don't want to egg wash the top because, as I said, the egg wash works as a glue. And if that egg wash drips down the side of the puff pastry, it would glue those layers together. And we want the layers to rise up.
I see.
So as you can see here, this batch came out of the oven a few minutes ago, and I'm going to use my hands without gloves. I think you can see all the different layers of it. And look how tall it got. I mean, that was 2 layers of dough that puffed up. These were the little caps from the center. We saved them because, first of all, they're good to eat.
Absolutely.
And, you know, why toss anything? It's nice for decoration. And that's our puff pastry story.
They look delicious. And so in this case, we had talked about before, you could use this as an appetizer. And I know that we're going to fill it with the shrimp salad.
Right.
But we can also look at this as a dessert and maybe drizzle some chocolate or some pudding or any number of things. So this is, as you mentioned, really versatile. So I suppose if you were going to Thanksgiving, you could have it at the beginning of your meal and you could have it again at the end of your meal in 2 very different ways.
This is the pastry dough that's actually used around beef Wellington, which is a roast surrounded by puff pastry. So this is the dough that's used for it. So you really could have it for, as you said, an appetizer, entree, and dessert.
So you can freeze this and use it for multiple different purposes.
Right.
How long is dough that's frozen good? I mean, can you keep it for a year? Do you keep it for longer? I mean, is that...
I think most home freezers go on and off. That's how they self-defrost. I think 3 months is a reasonable time.
Okay.
If you have a deep freeze that doesn't go on and off, then you might be safe with to keep it for 6 months.
Great.
But it won't last that long. Not when you can make all those different things.
Not at your house.
No, not at my house, for sure.
So with a couple minutes left, we have another guest who's been offset for a little while, and Carl Maya is the program advisor for the Culinary and Hospitality program at Berkshire Community College, and
Thanks,
been with
Christina.
us for a number of years, and is going to talk a little bit about the program itself.
I'm going to talk about why this is my favorite class to visit. But I make sure that I tell all the students I'm not responsible for the 10 pounds they put on this semester when they get through. This is the beginning stage of the culinary program. They're in the process in the fall of taking Culinary 101 and 102 in conjunction with the baking class. And I think that's what really gets them excited. By the end of that first semester, they can see the results of their knowledge and hard work for the semester. And they're anxious to come back to the second semester and see what other wonderful things they can make now that they've gone through the first process. So this is a great class, and Audrey does a marvelous job with them. You have students that you know nothing about the first week, and by the time we get to the spring break, they're all friends. As you can see, all of these folks have been friends.
They're all going to work for Kelly, as
I know,
I understand it. So.
I may retire and work for Kelly. But,
no pressure, Kelly.
Sounds like she's going to have a big bakery. She's going to need a lot of help.
That's
so,
right.
And we do need bakeries. The bakery shop business has really exploded in the last few years. It's ironic that we don't have more bakeries, but the big stores, have expanded their bakeries, and consequently, from our program, students that had an interest in that went on to work in the bakeries of Price Chopper, Stop and Shop, and Big Y, and several of those have gone on to open up their own baking, mostly cake decorating. We had one student that had her own business, Susie Sweets, who had an exclusive at Cranwell Resort, making all the wedding cakes and some of their desserts and stuff. So again, this is a great career out of coming to BCC and joining us here in the culinary program.
Absolutely.
So I look forward to hearing from all the people watching TV today.
Sure, and they can find out more about the program, apply, and check out some of the courses by visiting the college's website at berkshire.cc.edu/hospitality. You'll get information on the certificate program, which is really a 1 year, and then the associate's degree program in hospitality, which is usually a 2-year program, and many of the courses that are taught in those classes,
all of the classes
are taught by the two of you.
Well, all of those classes in the first certificate program transfer as the first year of the degree program. So they can really come and do it in 2 years and have an associate's degree in hospitality administration.
I'd also like to mention that the recipe for today is also on the website at berkshirecc.edu/hospitality. So if you wanted to make puff pastry at home for dessert or appetizer or beef Wellington, you could certainly do that, and the recipe is online. I took a look at it just yesterday and thought, I think I could probably do this. And after seeing it today, with the rolling and I think I could probably do it. So I appreciate you guys being here. I know that we have some sort of finished product that you're going to bring out and show to us. So we're probably going to make our viewers at home a little bit hungry, and the crew in the back looks a little hungry as well. So we might save some for you. So why don't you tell us a little bit about how you made this look so pretty?
Well, actually, Melissa made shrimp salad, and it's pretty simple.
It's very simple.
Yeah.
It's just shrimp, already cooked shrimp. We did onions, celery, a little bit of mayonnaise and lemon juice, and some dill. It's a little salt and pepper, and that's it. Mixed it all together.
That's it.
It's simple.
So we've used an ice cream scoop because ice cream scoops are great for things way beyond just ice cream. A small ice cream scoop gives you good portion control, and so that every plate is the same, so that nobody says, I want the big one.
Yeah, how come she got more than I did?
Right. Well, an ice cream scoop manages to control that. So we used an ice cream scoop to scoop the shrimp salad into the well of the bowl event. We've decorated the plate with a little bit of salad green, some dill, because that's what's in the product, in the shrimp salad, and the little cap from the top of the, Melissa has gloves on, that we baked off is there for decoration and to be in.
I think this is a really good point because you can make something really tasty, but if you just put it on sort of a plain napkin, it doesn't do it justice. And so I think your points about decoration and you know, other sort of nuances on the side really help to dress it up. So that's a really valuable point. With just a few minutes left, I also wanted to acknowledge to the folks at home that this facility actually wouldn't be possible without the Carol M. White Foundation, Operation Better Start, and Berkshire Health System. So we thank them, as well as the Miss Hall's School, who's our crew today, and Pittsfield Community Television for letting us descend upon this great space and allowing our students the opportunity and our faculty who have been so wonderful to showcase the good things that they have going on in the program. So I appreciate you being here. I appreciate you being patient and answering some of the questions about how all this magic happens, because it truly does come out to be something very magical in the end. So appreciate that. I really loved having you join us today.
Thank you.
Thank you for inviting us.
Yeah, thank you. So that wraps it up with another edition of Access Higher Ed. Again, my name is Christina Barrett, Director of Marketing and Student Recruitment at Berkshire Community College. We hope to see you next time.